Meet the computer you can talk to. With Copilot on Windows, working, creating, and collaborating is as easy as talking. Got writer's block? Share your screen with Copilot Vision to help spark inspiration, and use Copilot Voice to have a conversation and brainstorm ideas. Or maybe you need some tech help. With Copilot Vision, Copilot sees what you see. Let Copilot talk you through step-by-step guidance so you can master new apps, games, and skills faster. Try now at windows.com/Copilot.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the Dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
That's part of our mission and approach. You can talk about big picture ideas like, hey, I want all my kids to be bigger, faster, stronger. I want them to develop. But what are you doing to measure it and understand it and actually help your staff and coaches reach those goals? So that's what we want Tully to be, that kind of tool for that.
Welcome to this episode of Sprint-Based Football, presented by Titan GPS. Founded and based in Texas, Titan GPS is your key to sprint-based football success. Designed specifically for high school football, Titan tracks the metrics that matter, like top speed, explosive acceleration, and even the powerful truck stick, speed times weight, for the ultimate performance insight. Whether it's optimizing practice, spotlighting players with 3D highlights, or giving recruiters verified in-game stats, Titan delivers. And with no minimums to get started, Titan walks you through every step. Message them on X @TitanSensor to learn more. Titan GPS, performance measured, potential unlocked.
Introducing Oakley Meta Vanguard, the new performance AI glasses designed for athletes. With hands-free capture on an action-ready ultra-wide camera, powerful open-ear speakers, and built-in Meta AI that syncs with your Garmin devices for real-time insights while you train. Take your performance to the next level with Oakley Meta Vanguard. Athletic intelligence is here. Learn more on meta.com.
Hey, I'm really excited today. This is the Sprint-Based Football Podcast, and I'm here today with Adam Redmond, a 6-year NFL veteran, a guy that went to Harvard. And what he can do for us sprint-based football coaches is to give us a way to record, rank, and publish. So with no further ado, Adam Redmond, glad to have you on the show.
Thanks, Tony. Yeah, excited to be here.
So tell me I mentioned that you went to Harvard. How in the hell has that happened to a guy that's from Cleveland?
Yeah, I'm still wondering that, the answer to that question. But yeah, I grew up on the west side of Cleveland, Strongsville, Ohio, went to high school near Akron, and I was a football player and I was a big kid, offensive lineman. So I had college aspirations. And honestly, I always joke I backed my way into Harvard because I was hoping to go get a Big Ten offer, and I, got to go visit Michigan State and some other Big Ten schools, but was sort of undersized weight-wise and never got an offer. And I had some MAC offers, but, a lot of the MAC is coaches leaving every 2 years. And so anyways, I kind of took a second look at Harvard going into my senior year. I'd gotten some letters from them and finally returned some phone calls. And really, once I got on campus and realized I could kind of have the full experience that I wanted, it really became extremely compelling. And I met some players who were from the town over. I was like, okay, these are normal guys. It's not what you think it's going to be, and kind of fell in love with the culture there. So I got really fortunate. Couldn't have anticipated the value I'd be getting from the football program, Coach Murphy, the friends that I've made, but I was very, very fortunate to have that opportunity.
So you're at Harvard and you said that you were undersized. I was doing a little pre-show research because I'm a professional here, but I saw that in the NFL, you were 6'6", 295.
Yeah, I probably played most of my career in the NFL at about 305, 310. High school, I was soaking wet, 230, 6'6", tall, skinny kind of guy. So I guess I just wasn't athletic enough to be a skill player, back then. So I was no lineman, but I walked on campus at Harvard. I was 248, maybe 250. So really never played it down at Harvard above 275, 285. And so that was always the knock on me, both as you would know, getting recruited for college and especially going to the NFL. I was like, can this guy get big enough? So I always saw myself as a weight gain. I was the 5 meal guy. I was peanut butter and jellies at 11:30 at night, trying to keep my weight up. So yeah, undersized, I guess, is a good.
As much as I would like to do that now, I've heard that that's a terrible burden, actually, right?
Yeah, more of my wife and now my then girlfriend at the time, I think, having to plan your days, your weekends around, hey, when are we going to eat every 3 hours was quite a chore. So very happy to be done with that. Now I wish I could eat whatever I wanted, but I've turned over a new leaf.
So are you like other NFL offensive linemen that drop like 50 pounds the year after you leave the game?
Yeah, and I got no credit to me. It was very just my body kind of going back to its normal state. I lost about 80 pounds in about 7 or 8 months. Like, it was very quick, maybe too quick, some healthcare people would say, but kind of just fell back into my normal state. So I'm like 230 now, and I'm back to high school weight.
Interesting. The last podcast we did on the Sprint Based Football podcast was with Wendy Earlbeck, a nutritionist. And so I'm very interested. Did you work at it at all to lose 80 pounds?
Yeah, I mean, I did mostly, like, for the first couple of months, I went from 5 meals a day to 2.5 kind of. That was, and I always heard, and Wendy can probably shake her head if she's listening, but it's like, you don't eat, you basically eat after 8 p.m. if you want to gain weight. Don't eat after 8 p.m. if you're going to lose weight. I kind of putting in some basic principles like that, but I was never been a calorie counter. I sort of just went back to a more normal state, cut way down on what I was doing as far as a calorie intake. And then, riding Peloton and doing cardio for a few months, it sort of started to fall off. And then I had to sort of build my body back up from actually start lifting weights and start trying to look good again. But no, it was pretty natural for me. Like, my body was ready to jump back it was stressed to the max of being that heavy for so long.
I love it. So tell me, the reason why we're talking here today is that you and I were introduced, the guy that does the coaching coordinator podcast, Keith Grabowski, and he's also a Cleveland area guy. So the reason why Keith wanted me and you to talk is that one of the biggest tenets of sprint-based football is that we are going to prioritize speed and not endurance, and that we are going to try to create fresh, healthy athletes in the off season, kind of getting away from the grind culture that's so traditional and instead focus on the things that truly make a football player a great football player, things that NFL Combine will test. And, we're going to laser-like focus on speed and jumping ability and the ability to lift weights and the things that make us a great athlete instead of just the thing we're just going to make it hard on kids every day. So the record, rank, and publish is critical. It's central to Feed the Cats, to sprint-based football. And tell me about your app and how that fits in to record, rank, and publish.
Yeah. So for the kind of background on Tully was I retired after the 2021 season, my last playing season in Baltimore, and teamed up with my college roommate, Mike Mancinelli, to co-found Tully. And frankly, from day one, we were really just interested in combining. He's a tech background engineer by trade. And so we're looking at sports tech, but really we were trying to find how can we apply sports tech in a way that would actually be useful to youth sports, to high school, to the everyday athletes, not things that, the Dallas Cowboys have endless budget and resources for. So we were trying to find a simple solution. We actually started with a device for velocity-based training, which I don't know if you guys have talked about that much on the podcast, but something I did with like the old Tendo units on a string in college and the NFL, measuring the speed of the bar as you're lifting. It's a great tool. So we actually built our own device and we had it out in the market to several schools. And, they came back to us and said, hey guys, we love this, but I can use this for 10 kids. I've got 85 others who I'm just trying to monitor. Did they show up, record some weights, record some sprints? And so it was kind of a light bulb moment for us of simpler is better. And there's efficacy and value in recording as much, important KPI things we can and making that possible. But we took the philosophy of BBT, which is frankly, we want to quantify the quality of your rep. It's really how I see BBT working, right? If you're just lifting 315, hey, I got it 3 times. But if you were moving it, it took you 6 seconds to get it off your chest. That's a lot different than somebody who's, rattling the bar, right? So that philosophy, and then being able to show that to an athlete, we were reading, research papers and case studies where if you show an athlete a vertical jump, hey, you just, your first rep, we show you went 27 inches. they're way more likely to jump higher the next time if they saw that number. So that kind of positive feedback became really the engine of what Tully was about. And it was, how can we not only record the data for these athletes efficiently? So in a high school weight room where there's one coach and 55 athletes at 6 a.m., how can we record that data in a way that's usable? But also, how can we instantly channel it back to the coach, to the athlete in real time so they can use it to improve? And I think we basically went into a record, write, publish mindset immediately, because as many cliche things as you want. You can't hit the mark if you don't know where it is, or if you haven't set a bar, like how can you jump over it? Those types of things. For me, it's, if we're not doing that every single day, whether it's in the weight room, if you're taking the time to run sprints and teach it and try to measure it, like if you're not using that data and you're not tracking it and you're not sharing it with your kids, if that lives on a dirty Excel spreadsheet on your computer for 4 months and nobody ever sees it, what's the point? So that kind of became the philosophy of Tully, like just keep it simple, allow coaches to create those metrics that they want to record, whatever they might be, whatever lifts they like, whatever sprints, jumps, allow them to record them, and then make it really easy and engaging for kids to see their progress, track it, both short-term and long.
We're like talking the same language here. I use gamify all the time because for several reasons. One is that many times practices don't look like the game. If the practice does not resemble the game, then you're pretty messed up on your practice ideas. But in the off season, gamified basically means we measure things. One of my quotes is that we measure meaningful things to make meaningful things more meaningful. And if you're not measuring, now the weight room has always kind of done that because kids will remember what their bench press is, but they may not remember what their Bulgarian squat was or something like that. So maybe there's certain things in the weight room we did. And then, of course, if you're timing kids seem to remember their times pretty good. But what they really need is that ranking too, to see, all athletes are competitive or they shouldn't be athletes. So if we press the button of this is what you just did, this is what your teammate did, both guys are probably enthused. They can't wait to do another one, or like, I can't wait to do this again next week. So part of your stuff is self-reporting. So the kid can self-report, which worries me because I'm like, oh, what if he lies about the thing or something? But it doesn't have to be self-report, right?
Yeah, no. So that's the first stage. The record for us is like, we have to make this usable. So if you're a high school and you're fortunate to have 20 racks, you got iPads in every rack, you got great technology, we can fit for you. If you're a coach in rural Ohio and you have a cell phone in your pocket and 30 kids, you can also record on Tully. So we want to build the flexibility in there. Sometimes logistically, it's just not possible with a weight room of 75 athletes for a coach to jot down every kid's bench press every single day. So like, it's all more about the efficiency piece. Where we build in kind of the quality control is that transparency and the visibility of that data. And so it really serves two purposes. We have what we call our data live feed, which is essentially a live report. It's like a live leaderboard. So you can show, the metrics for the day. Maybe it's a bench press and a broad jump you want to record. It actually shows instantly. As soon as a kid submits it, it pops up on the board. And so we're now psychologically, if an athlete knows, hey, this isn't like, I'm not lying on a sheet of paper that's going to go in my coach's folder for 6 weeks. They might get to, like, this is going to be live in the room 3 seconds later. We've really seen almost no cases where that's been an issue. But then to your point, we also allow coaches, if it's a testing phase, if you're out on the turf and you've got the timing gates out and you can do this all yourself. You can record every data point yourself as well. We do have schools that do that. Coaches manage it all. So our job is kind of in flexibility, and then we make it so transparent, easily understood and seen. Then coaches kind of make that decision. Hey, what fits my culture, our team? What's going to work best for us?
So even though this is software, it's a high-tech thing, a low-tech school that had a weight room and a track and a gymnasium, it could be recording things like vertical jump, horizontal jump. I love to measure, 6 bounds. I say, if you tell a kid to bound 6 times, they'll do it. But if you say, I'm going to measure it, they will do it better. And so your stuff, could I customize your stuff to fit the things that I measure?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, coaches determine, you set what we call our metric list. That's your list of KPIs. That's all the lifts, all the sprint times, all the jumps, anything. So we've built a tool that you can create custom metrics or pull from our generic catalog. So our kind of mission and our promise is like anything that you quantify, anything you're writing down now on pen and paper, you can log in Tully just the exact same way, but it'll be sorted, analyzed, ready for you to view and see that progress, deliverable to kids, all those leaderboards and things just kind of done automatically.
Can you sort based on gender, age, different types of things like that? Offensive linemen, can you different subgroups?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So the way the roster's set up, you organize an athlete to the sport or sports they play. There's a creation called our group tag, which allows you can create all the groups you want. You can have a varsity tag, a JV, you can have advanced, you can have big, skill, whatever, by position even. You could break it down, tag athletes, age, gender, class year. There's a bunch of different fields. So you can kind of determine how you want to slice up the data and keep it really straightforward. But yes, totally customizable.
That really excites me because one of the things that have just organically come up, there's multiple schools that report to me that they are feeding the cats K through 12 or middle school. My own son, Alec, does a middle school feed the cats curriculum for half of his middle school. Half the middle school does a feed the cats curriculum. The other half does more traditional game, like, they're playing like 12 on 12 volleyball or 8 on 8 bat, the dumb things that happen in PE classes are too big. But the kids that are really competitive, they want to sprint and see how fast they run. They want to see how high they can jump. Every day, it's like a gamified, fun experience. And a lot of people think that if you're at the bottom of the rankings, that somehow you won't want to do it. We have not found that to be true because the people at the bottom of the rankings improve more than the people at the top. And so they get excited as well. So when I'm thinking in my head, is there a way that a school could get the Tully app and make it K through 12, make it a physical education thing that's also used by coaches in high school sports or maybe middle school sports?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly kind of our goal, is to have this, percolate down to as early on the Tully platform now. Our kind of sweet spot age range, like age 8 all the way through 18, 19, end of high school. We have some college pro athletes as well. But basically, we're in the position, again, whatever metrics those might be. So maybe and you're the expert on this, Tony, like feed the cats, the curriculum, but like maybe there's a second grader. Sure, you're not putting them under the bar for, a back squat, or you're not testing everything that you're going to be testing a high school athlete in, but maybe why not a broad jump? Why not a 10-yard dash? Why not, simple things like that, a vertical jump? You get it on there. You can do it maybe once every 6 months instead of every week, but you're able to kind of build that database and that understanding, again, that this is something, number one, it communicates it's important. We care about it. Nothing speaks to an athlete more as if my coach or the organization I'm with, they actually care enough to measure this and show me, okay, it must be important. So I'm going to actually, pay attention and focus on this. We just launched with our first youth football team up in New Hampshire, and that's exactly what they're doing. Their coach is taking 20 minutes of practice and they're running them a 20-yard dash. They're doing a broad jump. They're doing some mobility, like how many, body weight squats can you do, or kettlebell squats. So it can be really simple. It doesn't have to be, an all-in college strength conditioning program, but just, again, having that data, being able to measure it, building competitions around it. That's kind of what we're about. You mentioned always gamify. The term gamify is like kind of looked down on, but it's really just creating competition, like create competition about what you're doing every day, and athletes will respond to that in a positive way. So I couldn't agree with that more.
Yeah, and I just see that with athletes, a lot of people think motivation comes from what the coach says and things, but I think motivation comes more from the athlete feeling legitimate progress. When they see growth, they are motivated to see more growth. We're just wired that way. And I think I kind of see it as the Presidential Physical Fitness Award, where they test kids in 5 things or something, and then they'd move on. This could be an ongoing, like a PE curriculum, anywhere from kindergarten all the way up, where kids are sprinting and doing strength things and bouncing and jumping. I think it'd be very, very cool. I know as a parent, I would love to see my kid progression between age 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Then the kid gets excited too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's part of it. It's competing, it's measuring. And that's the trend we've seen with our customers. We usually start in the high school, but when they come back to year 2, they'll say, hey, we want to expand this to our middle school. What does that look like? And it allows to create that, especially when you're like a public school or a system where there's a natural progression. You started the elementary schools. That's such a value. Imagine identifying, those athletes at the elementary school level, they're going to be in this middle school, those middle school coaches knowing the athletes who are coming in, being able to see not to rate them or to evaluate them, but more for understanding of where that athlete's at. Where could they improve? What can maybe they focus on more than a different athlete? And then have that go all the way to the high school becomes kind of its own, organizational level tool. And I think as well, putting that up to district level athletic directors and folks at the top, being able to see this information, understand where the holes are, where we can get better, making sure that every school, every, organization, every coach is getting the right resources they need. Because if they're falling behind, can use better resources. So that's part of our mission and approach. And again, to your point from the beginning, it's all driven by this record, rank, publish. You don't have the data. You have nothing to shoot for. You have nothing to strive for. So you can talk about big picture ideas like, hey, I want all my kids to be bigger, faster, stronger. I want them to develop. But what are you doing to measure it and understand it and actually help your staff and coaches reach those goals? So that's what we want Tully to be, that kind of tool for that.
I think without data, you don't know where you've been and you don't know where you're going. And I'm such an anti-data guy in the classroom because the tests are not meaningful. The difference between the 40-yard dash and a district-wide chemistry test is the district-wide chemistry test is a flawed instrument of collecting data. So it's silly. But the ability to sprint in a straight line as fast as you can is really a differentiator among even, when they bring the best people in the country to the NFL Combine, they differentiate them based on athletic testing. And the number one thing is the 40-yard dash, and a lot of people hate that, but there's a reason why that happens. So all this data collection, I see also the thing, I'm so excited about the PE part of this. A lot of states have diminished PE programs. They don't require it, things like that. But man, if you could show data of the growth of kids physically, that would justify maybe expanding physical education.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, be able to point to that of the value. And sometimes the biggest is that we get with our data is to show an athletic director in a school or anywhere is to say, hey, look how many kids, how many check-ins you had. So we track the attendance. Look how many kids are engaging in this activity. I think that gets lost. I meet ADs. So like at the high school level, my brother's a strength and conditioning coach at a high school. Like that's where we built this thing when we built Tully with him. But it's like they're so underappreciated because I don't think an AD or somebody outside of it realizes, oh, wow. Like you mean to say that, there were 30,000 workouts this semester, like 3,000 times athlete came in here and trained with you. Like no other faculty, no other staff in the school does that. They don't have the same touch points as coaches do, whether you're a strength coach or a team coach. So quantifying that's really powerful. And then we want to see it as like, we talked about this, Tony, off air, of like, we want to help be that vehicle to provide those resources because not every PE, system, not every PE teacher is going to have the tools, the knowledge, but when you package it in a way that's really accessible and it's basically you're able to analyze flaws and holes, now you're able to pair great resources like a Feed the Cats, like that philosophy to say, hey, so-and-so school district, this is not only the tool that you have to collect this data, but hey, now we can show you better ways to achieve these goals and get better results. And that's where the education, the programming side. So I think that all works hand in hand for you. If you send off your philosophy to somebody, but then they're not tracking it, they might follow up with like a phone call, but it's like, are they doing it correctly even? Maybe they're just missing one little piece and they're not getting the results they want. But now if we, put it all together, you can kind of really get a much better result, much more efficiently.
Now, I haven't asked you this, so I don't know the answer. Let's say, my whole school district is doing it, PE, every coach is bought in, the middle school coaches. And can we compare our data to other schools' data?
Yeah, what we call Tully benchmarks, which now, the data set we've built, we're not sharing directly, coach so-and-so's data or name or something like that, but be able to see whether it's percentiles or rankings or understanding, where do we fall kind of based off of norms. So we've been able to build our data, those norms based off age and sport and different groups. So we can communicate that both to the organization, to the school, to say, hey, here's how your school compares to other public schools, across the country in these different areas you're measuring, but even to the athletes. Like if I'm an athlete and I'm an undersized offensive lineman in Ohio, and I'm trying to play in college, how do I stack up? Where are the areas I can get better? So those types of, we call them benchmarks, those norms, building that all in is really important. I think it's, again, breeds more competition, but it's another great context, this data that makes it really valuable and interesting.
Coaches, Titan GPS is the ultimate tool for football programs, including back-to-back Minnesota State champion Stewartville High School, a leader in sprint-based football. Built specifically for high school football, Titan tracks the metrics that matter: top speed, explosive acceleration, speed repeatability, and the game-changing truck stick. Titan's easy-to-use system delivers actionable insights at a glance, and their exceptional customer service ensures you're supported every step of the way. With built-in leaderboards to fuel competition and unmatched accountability, because the eye in the sky doesn't lie, champions trust Titan GPS, proudly made in the USA. Ready to join the best? Message them on X at Titan Sensor today to get started. Two of the things that are kind of big in sprint-based football is the mile per hour thing. Obviously, I didn't create that, but I think I did a lot to promote the conversion of a fly time to a miles per hour, because a miles per hour is, if you say you go 22.2 miles per hour, it means more to me than, I ran a 0.96 in the 10-yard fly. And then the other big thing is the truck stick, where you take a player's mass, his weight in pounds, convert to kilograms, and take his kilograms times meters per second, and you get basically a big, fast kid is usually a great football player. I mean, it's just a deadly combination. Even if they can't catch the ball, they are still going to find a way to play football if you're really big and really fast. And is there a way that, I imagine there is, to customize, to have a miles per hour rankings and a truck stick rankings?
Yeah, exactly. And this is another outcrop of, I think, your work in sprint-based football, because this was a request from our customers early on, was wanting to show data, not record it in seconds, but I want to present it in miles per hour. So we've completely automated that. So that's automatic. You can decide to measure a 10-yard dash in seconds. Your input's all in seconds, super easy, but then you can display it in miles per hour. That conversion can be automatic. And then also the truck stick, a lot of people using that. So we have what we call assessments. Essentially, you can build those derived metrics right in the platform to say, combine this time, compare it to an athlete's body weight, the exact equation that you guys have set. And that way, now you have a truck stick automatically built. So all you're doing is recording the body weight or the sprint time, but now you're getting it in whatever presentation or analysis that you're wanting.
And you could probably do that. I've heard of some coaches doing other types of metrics like power quotient that they made up themselves. It doesn't have to be something that you offer them. They could actually customize themselves.
Yeah, you build the equation yourself. So it's as simple as the old school 1,000-pound club. If you want to add up your bench, back squat, and deadlift, and you can basically say, hey, tell the system to do that. It's really easy. You put in the equation. You can actually set like categories as little like badges. So if you get over that 1,000-pound, it's obvious. You have that list of everyone has achieved it. It gets a little badge on the athlete profile as well. But like you have people who like built Spark scores I've heard of. I've learned a lot of different scores. It's all built by the coaches, and it can be as complex or as simple, but it's all built by you.
I'm fascinated with the idea of the badges. I give wristbands for 20, 21, 22, 23 miles an hour. Garrett Moeller in Stewartville, he came up with the truck sticker originally, and he gives dog tags for that. But you're talking about is like digital badges, like next to the kids. I almost think it's like a helmet sticker.
Yeah, that's essentially what it is. So all of our athletes, every athlete in Tully is an athlete summary page, where it has their information. We do our own Tully score, which is our kind of in-house gamification that looks at every metric you're recording. It quantifies a single score. And there's some customization there as well. So coaches can ratchet up improvement versus they get to build the score essentially. But under that is basically we show every athlete all the metrics they're recording. And then on that truck stick card or that 1,000, whatever that card might be, that metric, then there'd be that little badge to show you, hey, you achieved the goal in this metric. So making it super straightforward. Like it's just the context of raw data. It's got to be clear. It's got to be obvious. That's kind of what we're trying to shoot for.
Do the coaches who have tried this, is there a learning curve, or do they kind of hit the ground running?
It'd be foolish to say there isn't some learning curve. It's a little bit different, but everything we've built is for like a same day onboarding experience. So from sending us an email, the onboarding process is like, hey, shoot over your roster. Those names are input immediately. You basically can list out, hey, there's 3 metrics. We're going to test back squat today. and you can start collecting data that same day and putting it in. We also have the ability to pull in historical data. So most of our customers, you've been logging data for maybe 20 years in a certain way. And so you can actually share those spreadsheets with us. So we can just input that data for you same day. So you hit the ground running, all the numbers you already have, and now you can just start collecting data in Tully from that point on. So we pride ourselves on being as seamless and instantaneous in the onboarding as we can. Outside of 20, 30-minute Zoom call with myself or the team, it's pretty self-starter.
As you referred to earlier, if I was working with the Dallas Cowboys, I probably wouldn't have to ask this question. But since I'm working at a high school, what kind of costs? Are we talking about thousands here? Or what kind of cost? Let's say, since we're talking to football coaches here on this podcast, if I was a head football coach at Plainfield North High School and I said, holy cow, this sounds like great stuff, and I have a really good program, I have about 150 kids in my program, how much would it cost me?
Yeah, so it's $1,200 for the year. So $100 a month. That would be, accounts for all your coaches, all the athletes, everything that we've listed, all the features. That's kind of how we set that price. What we try to typically see is most of our customers are all school customers, but I think that entry point has always been good. It's always football. A lot of football teams, football coaches are the drivers. So after that first few months or that first year, we're expanding in the whole school, and now becomes like an athletic department budget. And that goes from $1,200 to $2,500 is the all school starting point. And so that way it's really incentivized. A lot of times it saves a lot of money. If a football coach is like, hey, I think our basketball coach would use this, a couple teams on there, you spread the cost out, but that $1,200 price point is the starting.
But in that $2,500, once again, I have this dream of K through 12 athletic training. Would that be a K through 12 or just a high school?
It said it was like an all school, all campus, but we would be looking at just the size of it. We want this to be an affordable solution. So our goal is to maintain that $2,500 to $3,000. Now, we're talking about several hundred athletes under that umbrella, all the coaches and all the features. So no, we're not moving too far off of that mark. We're not escalating to $20,000 price point or anything like that.
I keep thinking too, that if I was a football coach, you kind of mentioned this, like, wouldn't it be cool to know which of your 8th graders coming in to become freshmen are off the charts in the weight room, or holy cow, is that kid fast? And I don't know if you realize this, but I'm very aware of it, that there are a lot of great athletes that choose not to play football in our modern world, that do not play high school football. I would say the best athletes play basketball only. And it would be really nice to know what kids you should be talking to about joining your program. Or sometimes you have a kid that moves in and he's in PE and he's not signed up for any sports. And if you were doing some athletic things and putting this stuff on Tully, and you say, gee, the second fastest kid in the school is not out for a sport, that would help coaches get the right kids on the bus.
100%. Yeah. It's really clear and obvious. And then we've even heard a lot from coaches is it uncovers athletes on your current roster who you didn't realize how high they were achieving in the weight room. And like, wow, you look at everything together, you realize this is one of our top performers. Their Tully score is super high. Like, why is that? And like, we're uncovering this because it's the kid who showed up, and maybe 2 years ago they were undersized, but now they've gotten bigger, they've gotten better, they've gotten stronger. So it's not necessarily the star athlete that everyone's talking about. You're going to find kind of those diamond in the roughs, those athletes who are competing. And again, only possible if you're actually recording this stuff and looking at it and ranking and publishing. So yeah, both of those are huge. There's so much you can learn from this data. It's just the key is always how easy is it to collect, how easy is it to keep it organized. And that takes a lot of work if you're not using a tool like Tully, frankly.
Yeah, I was a freshman football coach for 6 consecutive years at Plainfield North, and we did basically a Feed the Cats training in the summer. And what we learned by timing sprints was just, if we did not time sprints, basically we would have to just ask a person what position they played. And that's usually what happens. But as we found that the big fullback was not in our top half speed-wise, we'd be having that talk with him about the move to offensive line. Whereas a kid that looks generic, who is the fastest guy on the team, but you maybe had not known that before, you're like, we might want to find a place for this kid. So yeah, I think we just learn a lot of stuff when we start gaining that data. Let's finish up here. What have I forgotten to ask you? What stuff is on your mind that we want to talk about?
No, I think when we talk to coaches, I think there's so many things pulling coaches in different directions. This is, unfortunately, if you don't have the luxury of a full-time strength coach or somebody on your staff, strength conditioning coach or coordinator, like you're forced to spend 10% of your time on the weight room that you're in between jerseys and everything else. And so it's always kind of that communication, like when's the right time to do this, or when do we commit, or just the thought of like changing over the way we've always done things is so daunting. I just always try to encourage to even just check out, whether it's our solution or others, just realizing what's out there. And if you haven't looked in the last 12 to 15 months, there's probably something new that you're not aware of that could make your life and frankly, the athletes and everyone's experience a lot better at a relatively low cost, low friction, and would not be a heavy lift. So I just am always, we're talking on October 10th here, right? We're in the middle of the season. Now it's maybe not the time, but as you kind of look to the off season, just encouraging coaches to kind of take that peek and find solutions. That's what we hear all the time. That's what makes me excited every day is when I hear a coach who maybe was skeptical, realize, wow, you guys are saving me a lot of time, or I don't have to spend my weekends 3 hours trying to like go through testing numbers and stuff. That makes a lot of this worth it for us. So always just try to relay that message.
That's interesting you mentioned that, because as a coach, one of the things that I would be like, I'm wondering if I'm adding too much to my plate by considering this. And what you're saying is that you can actually remove things from your plate, that this is actually not additional hours of work. It's actually a subtraction.
Yeah, absolutely. Our average is reporting like 4 to 5 hours a week of less time. If you're the one running the weight room, or you're the one who's either looking at data, collecting this testing, it's 4 to 5 hours you're saving. Whether you outsource the collections of the kids or not, even if you're going to record it, imagine walking out of the weight room, turning the lights off, putting your laptop away, and all the data is already there. You just go back and look at it. There's no going back later and punching into your Excel spreadsheet. There's no updating programs. So, I mean, the cost, the investment of taking 30 minutes to learn about it, a week or two to get a feel for it, I think is well worth it for customers we work with. And we're in the business of saving time, not adding to coaches. We understand intimately what that looks like, especially in the middle of the season.
Yeah, that whole thing is really important. I think all coaches need to remove things from their plate. It'll make them a better coach. And so what you're doing is actually fitting in perfectly with all that. And it just sounds like a win-win. How do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I mean, through the Coach and Coordinator media, we have a page now, as a landing page. We sponsor the D3 Coach of the Week award. Also can visit our website, tully.app, Tully, to learn more. And then the last point, so trying to, like you said, take less off the plate, just outsourcing what you can. So if you can outsource the data collection, the analysis to your assistant coaches, much easier. Again, that's our goal with Tully, is to make that possible.
Hey, it's been great to have you on, Adam. And I have a feeling like we're going to talk again someday.
Yeah. Thanks, Tony. I really appreciate it.
Thank you again for listening to the Sprint-based football series on the Coach and Coordinator podcast. Be sure to check out our presenting sponsor, Titan GPS. It's used by Sprint-based football coaches to get better data and understand the player load and how they can adjust that over the course of the season. It'll help you find out a lot about your team. It's used by Garrett Muller, who's a 2-time state champion at Stewartville High School in Minnesota. He uses it for all kinds of things, like seeing how his team's speed is progressing over the course of the season. I could say that in 2024, they actually got faster over the course of the season following their sprint-based football recipe. Titan Sensors also has the popular truck stick metric designed specifically for football and inspired by sprint-based football. Follow all we're doing at coachandcoordinator.com. You can get our show notes there. We have articles on these episodes as well. And follow us on X at Coach K. Grabowski.